You know in your gut you're not playing at your full capacity, and so therefore you don't think you deserve downtime. So therefore you don't take it as punishment for yourself because you didn't bring your A game. And somehow yet we think by magic that the cycle is going to break by itself, and the answer is no. You have to be the one to break it. Hi, this is Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to be bringing guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether it's Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go ahead and get that claimed. Smash the like button and subscribe. And please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's your Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Here we are, we're barreling towards the mid-year here in 2025. And I received a message on LinkedIn recently from an advisor who just asked a very simple question, which is, Joe, how do I balance my business and my personal life? And the simple answer that I have for him is you don't. So I asked him to do is, look, I'm going to do a whole episode on this. And so first off, Bill, thank you very much for reaching out, and I'm going to keep your last name out of it, obviously. So this is going to be like your personal little coaching session, which I think everybody will get some value out of. So I think it's in my experience, it's a real fallacy to sit there and think about balance. So balance would mean, for most people, is they think about it in terms of like daily balance, maybe even weekly balance, where I'm available in the business, these hours, right? And then the rest of the time I'm with my family. Then I've got some personal time, and I kind of make it all kind of fit and flow, and I shut it off when I get home and stuff like that. And unless you've got a gig that's like a salary plus, right, it's probably not going to work for anybody else. So I think the first thing is that it's not about balance, it's about integration. So hear me out on this. I've had this deep set of belief for many, many decades that being a financial advisor / planner is as important to your clients as their spiritual advisor and their health advisor. Look, I really truly believe the advisor, if you have the kind of relationships that you need to have, is you sit one of the three chairs, right? The troika, if you will, right? Spiritual, health, financial. And so if we take that as a framework for a second, right? So if on the spiritual side, so if you know any priests, pastors, ministers, rabbis, leaders, right? Is their gig 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, or is it who they are, right? So in other words, they're always available, right? It's not like I have this. They don't think themselves, well, yeah, my job is I'm a pastor, or my job is a priest, or my job's a rabbi. They don't talk like that. They say, what? I am, I am, right? Well, I think that's the same framework advisors have, right? Or need to have, which is it's not about a gig, it's about identity, about who you become and who you are. So inside of that, it's not so much about creating balance as it is creating integration. So in other words, if you're watching on YouTube, like how do I integrate my professional life and my personal life, and how do I bring them together so they both work, right? And that's integration. Here's the reality. If we look at balance as sort of our benchmark, you're going to be out of balance most days. And let me explain. Number one is that, when let's say you're in the office and you're in the middle of a surge or a review cycle, right? Chances are between prep meetings and stuff like that, you're going to spend a lot of time dealing with clients, right? So that means you're not spending time working on the business. That means you may not be spending as much time with your family for those windows, right? And that's okay as long as you have the other pieces available, which is going to be your renewal time, your recovery time, your sabbatical time. That's the give to get, as I like to call it. Hey, you're going to put a lot of time and energy into these windows of time, but then what you're going to get is a lot of time, freedom, and economic abundance. So here's some steps that I think are really important. And unfortunately, most advisors don't really start looking at this till way late in their career cycle. The first thing is, when you think about what you want, don't just think in terms of the business. So like when we do business planning here, we call our Magellan vision process. We don't say, here's the business plan and let's figure out how your life is going to revolve around the business. What we actually do is have you define your ideal life first, right? So in other words, like how do you want to live, right? What's ideal? Like paint pictures, get your spouse or significant other involved, right? Because once you can tell yourself what your ideal lifestyle is and what you think the math is going to be to fund that, right? Now the question becomes, what does the business need to look like in order to make that possible? So in other words, it's integrating in business and life first, and we're great at that. We've done that. I've led that for now a quarter century, and we've got that dialed in. So number one, get very clear on ideal life and lifestyle, and then your business should be able to serve it, not the other way around. Next, like I said, balance is the myth. So integration. So how do we integrate? We use a term called strategic calendar, where there's three types of time or days or weeks or months, however you want to frame it to yourself. There's tactical time, which is when you're working in the business, strategic time when you're working on the business, and rest, renewal, recovery, sabbatical time when you're gone from the business. So 3 terms: in, on, and gone. And our strategic calendars, we'd like to push it out 12 to 24 months at minimum. And then and we can reverse engineer this based on how many review slots you need, where you are in your career cycle, stuff like that. And what we have found is that it's like a messy closet. When you get everything organized, you got a lot of space. It just doesn't look that way when it's messy, right? So when you start organizing your time and your day blocks, you'll realize that you have a lot more capacity than you think because it's messy. Next piece, sustainability. So I think there's a real problem in our industry of what I call stealth burnout, where advisors are just showing up because they've shown up. It's a habit, right? You get up, you come in, even though you don't want to come in, you kind of play office, and you do some things, stuff like that. It doesn't really work. And so to me, it's okay to run hard. I run hard a lot, but I do interval training. Like I'll run hard for 6 to 8 weeks, but then I'm going to have 2 to 3 weeks off. Right? I mean, I teach my clients, myself personally, we're up to taking 3 sabbaticals a year of 3 weeks, plus some 1 weeks here and there. Why? Why not? If you don't plan to retire, I mean, this is a game that you can play forever. So why would I want to sit there and this is a thing a lot of advisors, I think a lot of people have a challenge with, which is setting up the game to create your business and to live your life on your terms, no one else's. I think that's super important. That's why we marry personal and business goals. That's why to me it's one and the same. It's not different. Burnout. So one of the things that you want to look at is how many weeks in a row can you go And not when I'm like, okay, redlining it, but what would be comfortable in terms of how many weeks in a row do you want to play before you need to kind of get some renewal recovery time, right? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 4 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 8 weeks? And when I say recovery time, I'm talking like a week, Monday through Friday. Not like, oh, I took a Friday off or I had a long weekend. My experiences, quite frankly, it takes a couple of days just to decompress. I mean, for me, a week is like 3 days. I don't start relaxing until like day 4, right? And then, by day 6, you're thinking about getting back. Hi, Coach Joe Lucas here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really, really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode. So, a day here or a day there. I mean, I think those are the nice little kind of recovery days. But they're not going to charge. It's like your phone is on 5% battery. And you throw it in a wall charger for about 5 minutes, may get to 15. It's not fully charged. And for something to fully charge, it takes time. Well, same thing here. It takes time, right? Super, super important. And if you're burnt out, you're just going through them. You're not having impact with your clients. You're going through it. You're going through the reviews at 70, 60, 75%. You're not dialing in. You're not digging deep. Why? Because you don't have the physical, mental, emotional energy. Why? Because you're burnt out. So in other words, you create a scenario where in your gut, and this is kind of the vicious cycle I see. In your gut, you're not playing at your full capacity. And so therefore, you don't think you deserve downtime. So therefore, you don't take it as punishment for yourself because you didn't bring your A game. And somehow yet we think by magic that the cycle is going to break by itself, and the answer is no. You have to be the one to break it. You have to be the one. Next, job. And this is so if you're building your business or you're building a chair that's going to be a job-like chair that's going to require you to be there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 50 weeks a year, right? And you have this. Look, I came from a family of workers. Right? I came out of the bar and restaurant business as a child. My father worked 7 days a week, 14, 15-hour days. I'm embarrassed to share this, but it's the truth. My entire childhood as a family, we had 1 3-day family vacation to Mystic, Connecticut's seaport. Why? I don't know why we went there, but I remember it. You know why I remember it? Because it's the only one. The only one, right? Point being is I get hard work and I get about putting the time in and putting the hours in. But let me be very clear. It's about output, not time. Unless you're paid by the hour, it's really about what you produce. And I'm not talking just economically, but in terms of just activity, right? That's what's really, really important. So in other words, if you start early in your career, planning for time freedom and economic abundance, you'll create time freedom and economic abundance. I think the first, somebody asked me this recently, Joe, how many years in the beginning of a career, how many years does an advisor have to really kind of put the time in? And I said, I would be careful about that because you can put the hours in and produce very little, right? And produce very little tangible results. But let's just say you're producing results. I would say if you were so let's take the first 5 years. So, and I was explaining this to Mike. Let's just say you want to be a doctor, like you want to be a surgeon. So not just a doctor, but a surgeon, like neurosurgery, cardiac surgery. Well, what's going to happen? You're going to graduate college, and then what? You're going to go to medical school. And don't quote me on this. I don't have the details. I think medical school is like 2 years, right? Maybe longer, right? And then you got to do your residency, right, for a couple of years, right? So let's say 5 years. So by the time you graduate college to the time you're kind of established is 5 years. So let's just take that framework here. So for the first 5 years of your career, you're just going to do it, man. Like you're going to be out of balance. You're going to be just doing what it takes. But here's the thing. Hopefully, if it's a second career, it's kind of the same rules, even though you may have children and stuff like that. But if I'm coming out of college, I tell young advisors all the time when I'm asked, hey, you're never going to have as much time to devote to the game as you are right now, especially you're not married yet, you don't have children, stuff like that. Like literally, get a cheap apartment, delayed gratification, master your craft for the first 5 years, and you'll never have to worry about it again. So I think that's really, really important. Downtime, and this is another thing, downtime's a strategy. So, think of it this way. When I tell my clients, look, man, you got to get some renewal time. Some of them think, well, yeah, but I don't think I deserve it. I said, look, dude, it's not a reward. You got to recover. Like if you're an elite athlete, look, here's the deal. If you were an elite athlete playing at the highest, I don't care the sport, and let's just say you're not winning, right? So you're not winning the tournament, you're not winning the match, whatever. Your coach, your manager, the people around you are going to say, well, hey, you haven't won a tennis tournament in 6 months. You can't take any time off. You got to keep playing in tournaments like every week, right? And you're just going to burn it out, right? You're going to get hurt. You're going to grind it down. Well, the same protocol here. Just because you don't feel like you deserve that. Now, I'm not saying you can go stay at the Ritz-Carlton for a week, right? What I am saying is I don't care if you do a staycation at house. I don't care what you do. You've got to pull yourself off, rest, recover. Downtime, renewal, rest, recovery time is a strategy, not a reward. It can be a reward, but let's just think of it as a strategy. It's something you've got to do. And I think the whole goal in all this is to play this game. Somebody says, Joe, what's the goal of the advisor game? And I was an interesting question. And I said, I'd give it a thought for a second. I said, I think the ultimate goal of the game is to play the game. It's to not quit, right? Unless you're ready to, unless like you've got other things you want to do, maybe philanthropy or family, like, hey, I got a bigger mission now I want to go do, so this advisor thing has been great, but it's time to go out now do something different. Then I think that's different. But if you're like me, like I have no plans to retire. I'll be 61 this year. And a lot of my clients model kind of what I do. And I'm like, well, geez, if I look at my year, the way I've got it plugged in for the next several years, it's like I've got a month off between end of December, early January. I take 3 weeks in the spring for a sabbatical. I take a 3-week summer sabbatical. Probably another 3 or 4 or 5 weeks a year that I'm on renewal time or mid-year breaks or something like that. Like I can roll this for the next, as I've been telling my personal clients, my model. My model in my 60s, right, is this is the model. Like I don't say I'm semi-retired. Don't get the wrong. We're still rock and roll and stuff like that. But it's from a time perspective. Like I'm totally sustainable, and that's the key word. You want to build a sustainable practice. And again, I don't care if your practice is more like a lifestyle practice, or it's a small ensemble, or large ensemble practice, or you're building this enterprise level thing. Sustainability has got to be rule one. Otherwise, I will guarantee you will burn out. And then you're going to think about getting out. And if you don't get out physically, mentally and emotionally, you'll be checked out. And then you're never going to be at your best. And we're just going through the motions. A terrible place to be. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. And again, thank you for the question. Is strategic calendar. So what everybody needs to do, I don't care where you build. I'll probably do an episode on this. Magellan. If you're in Magellan Network, we have a masterclass / e-learning on this, how to build them out. If you've come to my vision conference, live or virtual, we spend a couple hours on day 2 building out strategic calendars. But it's something you really need to do. It's your self accountability tool to make sure you're taking the time that you need to take. Okay, so I want to thank you for watching or listening to this episode. Leave a review where your podcast, Google, right? Like this, subscribe, pass this along to friends in the industry that you may find this to be valuable. And thank you so much, and I'll see you guys again next week. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game, both personally and professionally.